And we now turn to Raúl Canameras. Are you ready? Can you share your screen, please?
Yes. Can you see everything? Can you hear me?
Yes, very good. So you're going to tell us about identifying strong gravitational lensing in lenses in current and future large-scale imaging surveys. The floor is yours. You have 12 minutes.
Thank you very much, Karim, and thank you for the opportunity to present today. Yeah, as you said, so I will focus now on the opportunity to select the rare strong gravitational lenses from supervised deep learning. And I will now first emphasize why we need and want to study those. So we are particularly interested, actually, when there is a time variable source in the background galaxy, for example, a lensed quasar or supernova that is varying in time. And if you have multiple images of this source, the different images will appear on each side of the lens with a different arrival time because of the different light path for each image. And these different time delays can be measured on a human timescale with, for example, imaging surveys. And they are really interesting to probe actually the Hubble constant. So as a background here, the time delay, as you can see on the right equation, is related to the time delay distance and to the gravitational potential. And so if we can really constrain the lens potential and the mass all along the line of sight, we can combine with the measure of the time delay to infer H0. This is really an independent measurement of H0 that is relying on well-tested physics. And it's really important to have this kind of measurement, especially now that we have this well-known tension in the measurements of H0 between the early and late time universe. So to know whether this tension is real and whether we need new physics beyond the current standard lambda CDM model, we need independent measurements of H0 and the potential of time variable sources for these measurements was already highlighted with lens quasars as part of the HOLICO project. Where you can see the 6 lens quasars that were used with a wide range of follow-up data to constrain H0 down to 2.4% precision in flat lambda CDM. So now to go beyond these results and to address the possible systematics from the parameterization of the lens mass potential, we need to go further, and actually lens supernovae, they are extremely promising for that because for many reasons. But first, the time variation of the supernova has a light curve that is shorter and that has a characteristic shape. And so you can use that to really improve the precision on H0. So the only issue is that these lens supernovae, they are extremely rare. And so here in Munich, we have started a project led by Sherry Suyu to find and follow up and study these lens supernovae. So we need very wide field surveys and high cadence monitoring to really find them. And so that's where deep learning is playing a key role. It's to search first for the static galaxy scale lenses that we really want to then monitor, to then wait for a supernova to explode in the background source, and finally get the systems we want to study. With my 4 main collaborators here, shown here in this panel, we are now doing that with ZTF and PanSTARRS, and we want to extend to Rubin and SST in the south after 2024, ideally. Yeah, so going on now to the search and really using deep learning for static strong lens searches. So as you all know, the search is actually just a binary classification problem. You need to find the lenses out of many galaxies on the sky and many contaminants that usually, by lack of chance, look pretty much like lenses. For example, these spirals where you have arms that could be confused as lens arcs. And the supervised deep learning method is really the key answer to that. Why? First, because we know that the performance of these kind of algorithms, they are much better than the previous algorithms that are listed on the left here, or the left of this slide. And also because the first papers starting from 2017 have already built a big list of nice candidates. So Frédéric Courbin yesterday already introduced the challenges in lens searches. And actually, to overcome the challenges, many of the studies are focused on really strict catalog level cuts to make a clean selection and to overcome memory limitations. But for lens supernova searches, we want to be more systematic. And so that's what we really developed, is a pipeline to make a systematic identification of static lenses in band stars as potential host of supernovae. And we needed to deal with the huge amount of data over the full northern sky with 3 billion sources over 30,000 square degrees. But to go really beyond the simple catalog level and photometric cuts from previous studies, we used a two-step approach by first classifying the source photometry on the catalog level and then using a CNN to classify multiple images. So we know that deep learning is really the key answer to that, because, and supervised deep learning especially, because we are really interested into simple galaxy scale lenses that we can model. And so most of the effort is actually going to the design of simulations, where I've been listing here all the key ingredients of the simulations you need to include. And the whole pipeline here was developed by Stefan Schuld, who is present in Paris. So please talk to him and have a look at his poster if you're interested. But using now this whole bunch of simulations, and the first step, we use the photometry on these simulations and also on 50% non-lenses, so negative examples collected for this binary classification. We use the photometry in different apertures, as you can see on the left, where we want to catch the colors and color gradients of the MOCs, where the blue arcs will mainly contribute in one of the aperture compared to an example where you don't have any arc. And this is really promising because you can, as you see on the right, select the parameter space in these different apertures in 3 bands corresponding to the photometry of MOCs, where the orange contours that are kept after this network are really matching well the contours in blue that are the contours for the MOCs. And this gives us 1 million sources, 1 million sources that we can classify now with a classical convolutional neural network. To be short, I will just say that we need a very basic network, given the data quality in band stars. And we can, with a very simple setup, draw now a list from 1 million to only 10,000 candidates. So this step 2 is successful, is quite standard, and is giving us the list of candidates we want on the whole northern sky to be monitored now with ZTF to wait for a supernova to explode. So the next step now is, what can we do with these 10,000 candidates? So we can just use them for monitoring, but we can also go a step further and have a look if these candidates are really promising and if you can see the arc and multiple images that we expect for strong lenses. And so here we need the visual inspection stage to really inspect all these 10,000 candidates. We can do that in 1 day of full speed work. So it's feasible. We need to average the grading because different authors and different people will have different perceptions. And we see that we can recover 330 candidates, which is a quite good number, and for future spectroscopic confirmation and modeling. So the question here is, what can we do and what can we learn from this search in band stars? So first, we see that the network candidates and the list drawn by the CNN is full of ambiguous cases where we cannot really say whether the candidate is a lens or not, and also a bunch of false positives that you can see collected on the top mosaic. And to avoid that and to try to make the classification more pure and more systematic and faster also, we need to improve the purity of the sample. Just because for Rubin and SST, we would roughly need to spend 50 times more visual inspection than now in band stars. So what we did as a next step is to really extend the networks and test them better to prepare for next generation surveys, and especially Rubin and SST. and quantify in a very robust way the recall and completeness of our classification. Because as you all know, so of course in supervised deep learning, you have very robust and fast predictions, but these predictions, they will depend essentially on how you design the training data. So to at least make sure of what we are doing, we need to test on unbiased test sets that are very close to the survey setup, and to really demonstrate the performance that we will get on the real survey setup. And so we need to design test sets that are independent of simulations and other biases. So that's what we could do in HSC by classifying many non-machine learning found lenses prior to our work, and also non-lenses in Cosmos. And by drawing the ROC curve, as you see here, between true positive rate and false positive rate, we see that by doing many tests and tuning the MOCs, the construction of MOCs, the architecture, and etc., we can move up left progressively, and we can finally reach a false positive rate as low as 0.1%, which is extremely promising for LSST. And as a very final step before my conclusion, we just emphasize that we made sure that the performance that we got in these tests are really correct, and we classified HSC galaxies in PDR2 and found another list of good candidates. So just demonstrating that the network is now ready for LSST. Probably we will just need to couple it with crowdsourced classification to avoid a very long visual inspection by only a few people. But that brings me to the conclusion, first highlighting the poster by Stefan Schuld in our group that now showed how to model these systems. So please have a look at this poster. And finally, moving to my conclusion, as I'm running out of time, just to say that, supervised deep learning is really the key, we think, to find these static galaxy strong lenses as potential supernova hosts. Thank you very much, and I'm happy to have any question.
So thank you, Raoul. I have one question on Slack and one question from Mark here. Go ahead.
Thank you. I was wondering whether you have tried any ways of measuring uncertainty, like Bayesian neural networks or something like that, and if that could help in removing some fraction of false positives by identifying objects with large errors, for example.
Okay, that's a very good question. So no, we haven't done that for now in the lens search part. Stefan, for the lens modeling part, is working on that side and can tell you more probably in Paris at the coffee break, I guess. But for the classification and to increase purity, we have just checked that actually increasing the fraction of the main type of contaminants as negative examples is really the key to get rid of them in the output predicted sample. And we also checked that what type of galaxies were having a large dispersion in the grades. For example, if you rotate or translate the cutouts, and we saw that they were dominated by galaxies where the background properties of the cutout is not really standard, let's say. So there is some kind of improvement to make there, to better clean the cutouts where the background is not standard or has some artifacts. But yeah.
Okay. While you're thinking about the other question in the room, I have a few from Slack. So the first one from Jenny Wagner is, did you try to create a test set with 3 classes, lenses, things that look like lenses, and clear non-lenses? Could that help?
It's a very good question. So I had to be very quick on that slide, but that's what we do more or less. So because here in this really unbiased, let's say, data-driven test set from a real survey, we got non-machine learning selected lenses and also obvious non-lenses from Cosmos, let's say, but okay, with a fraction of spirals that can be more confusing. And we also added a third case where we had 1,000 ambiguous cases previously found by Spacewarps. So it's a crowdsourced classification project. And doing the test on these 3 different sets is really informative and really tells us where we should play to gain some good performance on the final classification. And these 3 test sets, they are really informative compared, for example, to test sets drawn from simulations. So yeah, that's.
Thank you. There is another question from Bharat Chaudhary Nagam. Do you have any plans for Euclid, or in other words, are you also preparing your algorithm for space-based telescope searches? Because there's not only Euclid, obviously.
Yeah, good question. So on our side, now we really want to get prepared and do the science with Lens Supernovae, as I introduced first. And so we want to focus on ground-based imaging survey with time domain information. So this survey, for example, LSST, will be good enough for us to find the wide separation galaxy-scale lenses. And so we don't really, right now, need to worry about Euclid, but I fully agree that Euclid will also find a few 10 or 100,000 lenses. And so there are other teams, and especially Frédéric Courbin here in Paris, who are working on that side. So in the end, the samples from Euclid and LSST will have some overlap and will need to be combined. Yeah.
Thank you. So I think there is no more question for now. So thanks again, Raoul.
Thank you very much. Thanks.